All right, so let's get into it today. This is going to be a good one because it's going to be breaking down Mr. Gensler's time at the Senate hearing. And we're going to be looking at some clips, give you guys some rundown, what it might mean for the crypto market. This will be a good one. I think you guys will not want to miss it. Make sure to stick around. My name is Paul Brown. Welcome back into Tech Path. All right, so let's get started. But before we get started, I want to thank our sponsor, actually a new sponsor, and that is Tangem. If you guys want to look at getting into crypto self-custody, this is one of the tools that you can use. It is a great wallet. Now, I have tested this several times. We compare it to other cards and other wallets out there. It's an interesting one. Let me kind of just give you guys a rundown. Slim as a bank card, secure as a vault, store, buy, earn, transfer, and swap thousands of coins and tokens. There's quite a bit happening within the Tangem wallet ecosystem. They just recently came out with a new wallet. If you want to check out their website, just go over to Tangem.com and you can find out a little bit more. Very easy to access, all you need, and it's a very, slick mobile app, so it's pretty cool in that aspect. You don't have, I won't say the other wallet's name, but you don't have that clicking the button management of it. This is more of an NFC connection to your phone, so it makes it really easy and secure. Let me kind of scan down here because this is the thing you want to take advantage of. Go in and research it because it's a really very interesting stuff. Here we go. This is their new Tangem card that is going to be out on October 5th. So you can pre-order this now. And if you use our link down below, you'll get some additional discounts. Now, what I would recommend is get the 3-card set. The 3-card set, that way if you do lose one, you've always got a backup while you're waiting for another card to come in. It's the way to go. Don't get cheap, guys. Just go ahead and get the 3-card set. It's worth that extra $10 to do it. And this is a lot less expensive than these really physical hardware wallets, even though this is technically a hardware wallet in the fact that it's a card. But check them out. Just go over to their website, Tangem.com. Check it out. All right, so let's get into it today. I want to go over and lead off with the first clip today from the Senate hearing, and it's Gensler's opening. Listen in.
Thank you. As promised to Senator Tester, there will be at least a series of questions about digital assets and crypto. Frauds and scams in the crypto markets cost consumer millions. Question, Chair Gensler, if crypto markets lived up to the investor protection principles we have in other markets, would that help protect Americans from the crypto abuses that cost consumers billions?
If they were to live up to the investor protection built into their current laws, it would help investors. But right now, unfortunately, there's significant non-compliance, and it's a field which is rife with fraud, abuse, and misconduct.
All right, so everybody knows, I think, Gensler's position. It's been very clear, his attack on the crypto and blockchain markets. Whether or not this is going to make a big difference in Capitol Hill, because this was an interesting hearing, and there's some key clips here that you want to stay tuned for, because this may set a little bit of a course on how and what may happen within the House, especially around stablecoins, but more importantly, I think around the crypto markets in general. I want to go to this next clip. This kind of breaks down a little bit more detailed of what it's going to take to monitor, this market in general, what the SEC is trying to get. Listen in.
The enforcement that you are undertaking with respect to crypto, there was a challenge at the time because you were understaffed. Do you feel comfortable now that you have the staff that you need, particularly on the enforcement side when it comes to the fraud that unfortunately we're seeing related to some crypto?
I would say no. We're not large enough as an agency, given that the markets have grown 50 to 70% in terms of activity, complexity, et cetera, during that time. In terms of crypto, more narrowly, I've been around finance for 44 years now, I guess, and I've never seen a field that's so rife with misconduct. It's daunting.
Yeah, so I would probably challenge that in the sense that, just securities in general, especially in terms of size, dwarf the crypto markets overall. That I would agree with, actually, Chair Gensler, in that maybe they need more bodies because of the size of the securities markets that is out there. And then if you look at just some of the biggest things that have happened in the history of the securities Ponzi's, everything from the Madoff scandal and beyond, plus we've seen so many others. So I don't necessarily agree with him there. I think when you look at the crypto markets, these are easy wins for him because they in most cases, can't defend themselves. So if you were to go in and say, all right, well, let's just add a whole much more people, let's take a look at their current full-time. This is their full-time equivalents and their history over a period of time. You go all the way back. We'll start at 2010, about 3,800 people going up to 3,700, all the way down to where we are right now, 2023, they currently have 4,600. So literally in, well, let's go from 4,200 to 4,600. So almost a 10% increase right there in 10 years. And they're trying to apply to get over 5,000 people. Let me zoom in on that. I didn't realize that was so small. Let me zoom in on that. Yeah, there you go. 2023, 4,685, and then about 5,000 people is what they're looking to grab here. Now, when you compare their overall pay, SEC staff pay, paid more than any other agency out there, including the FDIC, the EPA, the DOJ, the Treasury, DHS, all of those are paid less on average than what's happening in the SEC. So I think this is an interesting point. Again, it gets back to the thing that we've talked about before with Gensler. He's there to essentially do more of a power grab. At the end of the day, this is what it is. And I think from a lot of the senators and House reps that I've talked to, they understand that this is a big issue of the fact that the power grab and power positioning that the SEC has taken has really started to, I think, make Capitol Hill kind of look bad. I want to go to this next clip, which will get into a little bit more of the ETF side of things. Listen to what he had to say about that.
Last month, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia unanimously ruled that the SEC's denial of Grayscale's spot Bitcoin ETF was, quote, arbitrary and capricious. They argued that the product is mathematically indistinguishable from already approved futures products currently trading on U.S. exchanges. So my question is, can you explain what the SEC needs to see in a filing to approve a spot Bitcoin ETF? And what questions do you still need answered from issuers about the market and or market infrastructure in order to allow this to happen? I'd just like to get some clarity.
Be very brief, and we're moving on. Chair Gensler.
Senator, I thank you for the question. We're still reviewing that decision and reviewing. We have multiple filings around Bitcoin exchange-traded products, so it's not just that one you mentioned, but it's multiple others who are reviewing them, and I'm looking forward to staff's recommendations. So it's similar questions.
Thank you.
All right, so I think, his response is pretty straightforward there, but I feel like that is not a no. We don't think that this is going to happen. Not a yes, but he's definitely looking at his staff recommendations, which most likely will come in on the positive side of ETFs. Now, granted, they had to keep it very short and concise. They were pushing this hearing along pretty heavily. It's quite a bit of a different zone. I know you guys don't want to have to go listen to the whole thing, but it's a different zone than what happened in the House hearings over the past few months. And I think we will most likely see when Gensler comes back in front of the House, a different tone of how the House reps and just lawmakers in general will be addressing Chair Gensler. I want to go to this next clip real quick that breaks down the amount of losses that they have suffered, meaning the SEC, that they have suffered just here in the past few months. Listen in.
Your staff raised concerns with the IG that when moving more aggressively with rulemaking, the SEC is opening itself up to increased litigation risk. We've seen some recent legal setbacks for the agency, particularly in respect to cryptocurrency. So how are you assessing the agency's litigation risk with respect to the breadth of your rulemaking strategy?
We take Congress's mandates to us and the authorities we have very seriously, but also how the courts interpret them. And we're dedicated and committed to doing things just within our authorities and how the courts interpret it. But we get a lot of feedback also from the public on that.
All right, so I think, the point behind the amount of losses that they have taken, this can not help the SEC in any way. And in reality, I think it only bolsters the positioning of the lawmakers because they realize now that the courts are going to uphold these kind of scenarios because there is no real law on the books. Back to his opening statements is that there's all this, negative energy coming in from the crypto markets when in reality, there isn't any real clarification on these laws. So, and not that that means that some of these things should not happen, because I think in many cases, bad actors you should always trace down. But in many cases, those aren't necessarily violating SEC laws. They're just violating laws in general. So I think this is something that only makes him look bad. How he's going to clean this up in the next few months, possibly going into an ETF approval, might help soften that blow a little bit, at least in front of the lawmakers. But I think he's going to have to get some wins in here, and I am still considering that I think the Coinbase case is probably going to get thrown out. We'll see how this actually plays out. Next up on this clip is getting into the regulation strategy that he has used over this past year and a half, 18 months. Listen in.
Whether it be your crusade against digital assets, there appears to be hardly a sector of the U.S. economy that you view as out of reach of your rulemaking authority. In the nearly 28 months you've been in office, the SEC has proposed or finalized 47 substantive rulemakings. Of these rulemakings, more than 80% were not required by congressional statute. This means that the vast majority of the agency's rulemaking agenda has been voluntarily undertaken. Chairman Gensler, you are not an elected official that's beholden to your constituents. You are an unelected bureaucrat who has taken it upon himself to reshape American financial markets to your liking, to the detriment of innovation, of investors, and small businesses.
We have about 50 policies on the agenda, 50 projects on the agenda. My immediate predecessor, Chair Clayton, successfully finalized 64 adopting roles. It may be that you and I might have differences on the policies, but it's not out of line with what happens.
Okay, so I think they're measuring right now on the sense of, well, hey, Jay Clayton, he actually went after a lot more companies than I've gone after, but it's the timing, it's the implication on the markets in general. Crypto is a different animal than it is and was under Clayton's rule, and now it's starting to affect the United States in terms of innovation. I think that Senator was dead on with what that means for the future of the crypto markets in general. If you look at this article right here, former SEC Chair Jay Clayton says Gary Gensler's overstepping his power. And of course, a couple of points they hit on, concerns about the regulatory approach of the SEC. There's a lot of industry executives, including the banking executives and the hedge fund executives now are even agreeing with Clayton's view, is that Gensler's approach may be politically motivated. I think everybody kind of knows that. But this, to me, is a much wider swath for the grab of power by the SEC. And then further in the article, this was Cameron Winklevoss talking about the piece there on Squawk Box where Clayton was basically recommending this. But he said some very interesting things right here. If we're not losing cases, we aren't suing enough businesses. This is the abuse of power that I think not only the Senate, but our lawmakers in general need to be looking at our government agencies and being able to hold them accountable for these kinds of strategies that they're taking, not only on the American investor, but many of the innovations and startups that are out there building in a lot of these nascent, industries, much like what's happening in blockchain and Web3. And I think that is the real damage that is being done. So to the defense, I think, of the industry is that it's the timing in which these 50 actions have taken place, and likely going to be more before his rule is up. And I think that is going to be the big factor here going forward. If we continue to see these very significant issues like Ripple, like Coinbase, like Kraken, all of the kind of scenarios that have played into affecting the market as a whole, even down in the NFT projects, if you look back at what happened with the Impact Theory team, and the fact that they had to settle out of the essence of being able to, it's just a math problem, and didn't want to have to fight a scenario where you're bound to just drain your bank account trying to defend. So there's a lot happening right now. This is a concern right now for me because of the fact that this has positioned the SEC going into this next hearing, I think in a favorable position where Gensler didn't really get pressured on this one. So we'll see how it goes on the next one. What I would recommend for you guys to do, if you're not and have not done this already, is reach out to your House reps, your senators, to your lawmakers. Let them know where you stand on blockchain, on crypto, on Web3. Give them some insights, because that is really the only way any of this is going to ever get changed out there for sure. All right, if you guys are not listening, maybe you are listening in over on the podcast side of things, make sure and jump over here to the YouTube channel. You can catch in our live streams. You can get notified, all that kind of stuff. Just hit subscribe and get that little bell there, and that'll help you get notifications when we go live. And of course, it's a great place for you to join the Diamond Circle. So click the link down below. You can jump into additional content, more podcasts, additional research. All that stuff happens in the Diamond Circle. If you guys want to catch me out there on X, it's @Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.